So, hi, Bob. Welcome.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for having me here this morning, Elizabeth.
You're welcome. So, I think we'll start. Look, I mean, people are still sort of trickling in, but we have a
Sure.
limited time, and so just wanted to start. So, again, I want you to introduce yourself to the folks on this call and tell them who you are and how long you've been at Talkdesk and what you do for Talkdesk. Because I think, unlike some of the other folks that we've had on this year. Yours is a little less obvious what you do. So I'd love for folks to hear, and again, for my own selfish purposes, who you are and what you do.
Well, first of all, thank you. I'm Bob Benner, Senior Director of what we call AI Specialized Sales for here in FY25. Been at Talkdesk a little over 2 years,
Yeah.
based out of the Dallas, Texas area. So, what myself and our team do is we really help drive. There's this thing called AI that people talk about
Yeah.
occasionally.
Maybe some people on the call have heard about that. Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you've been reading the news a little bit and things like that, that's really what our team is really focused about is really driving better adoption for our customers to take advantage what artificial intelligence brings and what TalkDesk brings to the table on that. And really to enrich our customers and their experiences, take advantage of that tool set, understand how it works, demystify it a lot. A lot of times we think it's magic, but there's actually hard science and a lot of hard work behind it. But really to make it, I would say, I like to say it and talk this more approachable so it doesn't become scary and then customers really begin to take advantage of it to really improve their customer engagement and enrich it at every piece of the journey for our customers.
So, how do you get involved in it? So, who calls you and says, hey, or does I'm going to need your help? Or are you being more proactive about it? How do you get involved in the whole process with the customers, with the sales team?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're part of the sales team, of
Right.
course. And so part of it is a lot of our sales, sales leaders, AEs, SEs, CSMs, we come from a variety of points in the company when they're engaging with clients. And it's probably where they say customers interested in AI. What is that all about? And usually we get tapped to come in and explain what is the philosophy, what is the strategy, make it real. How do you see this in action every day? What's the benefit behind it? So a lot of times it can be a trade show as well. We'll go to events. We just had one of the guys on our team, Alfonso Cano, out there at CCW Berlin yesterday doing a session. And so education is part of it. But, we're here to be advisors and to really make it, I would say, remove the discomfort or what I would call sometimes the scary parts of it and make it real, but also make it where our customers and ourselves are, oh, this is easy. This doesn't need to be a scary tactic, so to speak.
So, has your focus always been AI, or has that changed? Has anything changed over let's just focus on Talkdesk over the past 2 years that you've been at Talkdesk?
So always been about AI talk desk.
Okay.
That's the reason I came to bear here. When I was originally when I came in, I was running the sales team for AI for the Americas and focused on that. And we had our team focused on that. However, I always wear a global hat, and we would always be worried about any opportunity, regardless of what part of the world our customers were maybe more interested in. So we got engaged and we try to operate that way, certainly. So day job, I worry about the Americas. But overall for Talkdesk to be really a good Talkdesk citizen, I worry about it globally all the time. It's important. It keeps my job more enriching and exciting. I'm learning. And then what we know on one side of the ocean may apply to the other side of the ocean. So that's important as well.
So, how did you get into? I mean, obviously, AI has, and I'm going to make a grand assumption, and please excuse me, but AI obviously hasn't been around as long as you have been, long as I have been. I'll put myself right into that category also. So,
Sure.
how has your career evolved and developed so you suddenly got into this space? And did it happen organically, or was it something that you saw and was like, oh, wait, I need to attach myself to that train?
Sure. Well, yeah, for folks that don't know me, mean, it's scary to say this, Elizabeth, but I've been in contact center since literally the early 90s. I'd hate to say it, around 1992, I stepped into it. That started with telecom, and I joined a small, we'll call it a PBX or telecom company here in the Dallas, Texas area. And what was exciting at that time when I got the job and straight out of college, that wasn't necessarily the goal.
Right?
But I was always interested in computers, tools, and there's this opportunity to join a telecom company, and they immediately threw me in, trained me up, and then put me on a plane everywhere, and got to deploy, and then you get to see the interesting nuances of contact center. So that's where I started and kind of developed from. My first customer, honestly, was Microsoft, if you can believe
Amazing.
that. We,
Yeah.
we we had a major opportunity, and so everyone got excited, and we're all going on a plane to Redmond, Washington, and we are deploying the contact center for Microsoft in the early 90s, you can imagine. So it was just great timing. And I just kept I was so excited. I was learning, and enjoyed it. But to your point about, so how did this evolve to AI?
Yeah.
Um, since contact center is always about making the journeys better for customers over time, the notion of automation is important. How do we get interactions to get served best and faster? That notion has always been the mantra in a contact center. How to be efficient, how to process more, but still be relevant to your customer, anticipate their needs, solve their problems. Those are always been the I would say, the main course in customer engagement. And then over AI, it was more about leading through automation. In the 90s, it was about an IVR and taking a call and processing it. And it was press one for this, press two for that. And I learned that. And I actually worked for an IVR company for many years, where I did the IRS as an example, across the US. If you guys recall when you had to do your 1040 easy over the phone, and if you had the opportunity to
Uh-huh.
qualify for the 1040 Easy, we had a whole entire team, and we would just build the applications, and we had to update those applications every year for tax season. And you can imagine the savings for the federal government to process only a few million of those every year.
Yeah.
And so that was where you got into automation. And then over time, more automation, those technology changes. And then I would say in the last 10 years, it's about AI. And it started with, I would call, workflow automation. Click a macro, do a widget, solve a problem really fast. And then AI got a lot more interesting when it became conversationally. And
Mm-hmm.
now we're all familiar with Siri,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
all those things. And we got those and we stick those in our house. But now you could do that for businesses and engage that way and do something more intelligently. And so I started stepping into that, learning that. And I was just lucky enough to be with various companies, worked for Cisco, worked for Genesis, worked for a few other firms in speech, conversational speech companies. And it just always interests me. It was always just a next evolvement of my career. And I was just always curious.
So what brought you to Talkdesk specifically? I mean, obviously you've been in the contact center for a long time. So what excited you about Talkdesk that brought you here, and what keeps you here?
Yeah, so initially it was so I'd always, when I would go to like trade shows and you would look at who are all your competition and things like that. And one year I remember seeing Talkdesk and massive booth, right? And you were like, where did these guys come from? And it was just one of those things in my mind that resonated when I was at the show. So I started to dig deeper and do some study. And what I was disappointed with at the time, I was with Cisco. Cisco wasn't making the right moves in cloud contact center fast enough, and for what we call CCaaS today.
Mm-hmm.
And we were a little bit disappointed that, Cisco's a big shop, and it always intrigued me to say, I want to work for a company that this is all they focus in on. And of course, it has to be cloud, it has to be modern,
Mm-hmm.
and we can move much faster for customers. So what intrigued me first was just looking at what's Talkdesk all about. I know some of the other players, and I was well familiar, but I wasn't familiar enough with Talkdesk. Talked to some friends, and of course, one of my friends at the time actually landed at Talkdesk, and he called me up and said, "Why don't you join the team?" And then when they talked about AI, I was hooked. I was like, "Wait a minute." You're building an AI focused team. Sign me up. This is the area I've been spending a lot more time. So that was the other part of it that really made it exciting.
Yeah. And so what keeps you here? Like what excites you still about Talkdesk and gets you up in the morning and says, "All right, I'm coming back today."
Oh, it's always the people. It starts with the people.
Yeah.
My team, I'm so lucky. I'm really grateful that I get to work for folks like Javier Ramirez and Terry Sullivan, Paulo Dwyer, Mike Pointer, and Alfonso Go. All these guys are experts in their field. They've been doing it a long time, and we just genuinely enjoy it.
Mhm.
And so that was the first thing is you could build a team and you get to know these players and they share the same passion, right? And they're practitioners of it. That was the thing that really got me excited. And then on the second side of it, on Talkdesk, what I didn't know until I arrived at Talkdesk, I suspected it, but I wasn't sure, is when we started working with the product teams. How transparent and open book they were. And they were so excited to just be working with you, understanding what they built, and then listening and collaborating and really being, and it was like a friendship automatically. And compared to other companies I've been a part of, I didn't have that transparency. There was a lot of product would be like, go away, don't talk to us. You're sales guys. Stop. You're going to make us do unnatural acts. Certainly. All right.
Yeah.
But the product teams here, so I'm going to say with Pedro Andrade, Joao Comar, Pedro Sa, Antonio Veloso, and the list goes on, and that entire team, so welcoming, so engaging. And we actually have a call later today. We get with them every week and connect with them. So they're just great people. And we truly enjoy working on this aspect for Talkdesk. That makes it, I think, the one part I didn't expect, and it got even better. And it's one of the things that really keeps us driving together is this team.
That's amazing because, one of the things that was so interesting that other folks have mentioned is that sometimes we get too siloed, right? And everybody is so focused on their own piece of the puzzle, right? And so one of the things that, as you know, we've been working on as a leadership team, and you've been part of that, is to break down some of those silos and have a broader understanding that we are all in this together. And we all have to be moving the same way in order for it to work. So to hear, I mean, there's the real life example right there, right? Is that you can't do your job without product. And they also need to lean on you to advise them as to, hey, this is what we're hearing in the field.
Most definitely. That's so important and critical in selling is you have that opportunity to really meet with your product teams and find middle ground. We understand, resource constraints or, priorities competing and things of that sort, but it's really important. We see us as the voice of the field and voice
Yep.
of the customer.
Sure.
And then we can get brought to the product teams to validate and, how do we solve? And, we're so lucky that we have such a team like this that digs in with us. We all grab shovels and begin digging together for what our customers need.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you've mentioned a number of times that you said learning that that you've been learning. And so I want to talk a little bit about that because obviously that's something that we are focusing more and more on at Culture, having this learning, Talkdesk, excuse me, having this learning culture. So why is learning so important to you? How do you learn? How do you encourage your teams to stay on top of all the changes that happen? Literally every minute, things are changing. So how do you
Yeah.
do it and encourage your teams to do it when also doing your day job of meeting with customers and with product and with the sales team and all of that?
I would agree. It's a challenge. It's something that you have to create a discipline
Mm-hmm.
on is I like to read and stay up. Of course, we scan through LinkedIn and we read articles, and you got to kind of vet through I'll call it the BS factor and what's real and what's credible. Understand what our analysts say. Understand what are maybe market leaders out there and what they're pitching. And I just genuinely enjoy reading that. So that's one thing is I just take time. It's sad, but yeah, on the weekends I do read about it. But part of it is also I experiment with them. I'm a practitioner. I like to dig, like I said, grab the shovel and dig in, roll up the sleeves and play around. That's been a lot of my background. I was on the services side for half my career. And one of that yeah, I went out there. I deployed the technology. I played with it. So it was easy to approach it. Even though I didn't know it, I was willing to it. And we have so many tools to learn these days through, yes, we'll go to YouTube and listen to that and dig in deeper. Equally, my team. my team, these folks here are reading stuff, asking about stuff. They're hearing it from customers. Sometimes our customers are the best place to source and go, I don't know that. Let me do some research on that. That's a great question. I honestly don't know that. And then the other thing is for our team, and actually we got to get in this habit even better now because there's so much innovation on the AI front. It's moving at
Right.
an incredibly fast pace. And what matters, what's applicable. And so it's great to have folks that touch on different aspects and focus on automation. Let's worry about automation for voice or digital, but let's worry about what an agent needs or a supervisor needs. What are the data sets behind it, and look at those things. So there's a lot of I would call minor disciplines in all of this. And so everyone has an opportunity to kind of specialize in a few categories, and we all kind of cover the zone. But it's something that we always have to work on.
Okay.
Like I said, we got a call later today. We have a month or a weekly Wednesday call. It's our learning hour,
That's
right?
amazing.
And really to learn, discover what's new. And with the velocity of Talkdesk and innovation, there's a lot new every day, every week. And so there's never a shortage there.
I love that. While just pause, don't forget there, if you've got questions, please do pop them into the chat because we will obviously take questions because I think this is a little bit fascinating for all of us. Like, I will just speak for all of you because it's certainly fascinating for me. So let's talk about leadership for a moment, just switching gears. Because again, another focus at Talkdesk, we spend a lot of time and we actually do very, as you are part of that. Our managers take their jobs very seriously. And that shows obviously in all of our engagement scores. So I want to hear a bit from you about some of the great leaders that you've had over the course of your career. Sort of what are some of the attributes that you have really focused on and followed and admired in some of those leaders?
Yeah, I think it really starts with first get to know the person, get an opportunity to know, what drives them, if it's family, work, their faith. Those are the first things I first look at is just get to know the person in general outside of work, and just have that background. And secondarily, trust. Know that your transparency is so important for me, and what I would say I lean on to is who you can trust, who's vested in you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, right? Are they invested in you and your mutual success? And we have joint goals where we can collaborate. And then I would say the third is create an environment of fun where you can. And I know that's challenging when we all sit in a remote zone a bit, and get opportunities to laugh, joke. Don't take it so seriously. We know business is serious, but we can have fun. We can kind of crack a joke, and you can share in those moments. That's another part I look at leaders is, can we also have friendship in the process?
Mm-hmm.
And so I lean on those. And some of the leaders I've seen that have exemplified that is they always made an effort. If I had one leader years ago that if he flew through Dallas, Texas, regardless of what he was doing or me as a client, he would make an opportunity to connect with you. And I would do the same. I started to see that opportunity where you say, hey, let's do something fun outside of work. Let's get a chance to do that. And that just creates those tighter bonds. Memories is important as well, right? And just cherish those things, and try to really grow on that if you can.
What would you tell a young leader coming up in the AI field today? What advice, or I guess any field, what advice would you give someone who wants to be a leader in the contact center space or a leader at Talkdesk specifically? What advice would you give them about how to establish themselves?
Yeah, so great question. I think my son sometimes asks me those questions too. And first thing is, do you have a curiosity in these areas and you like to work with people? Honestly, I think it's that's it where you enjoy, and this is a great opportunity for that. The other one is be willing to take risks. Maybe not be the right decision, But I always look for folks to say, throw yourself out there. Sometimes there's a problem that sits out there and everyone does the alligator arms and they step back and they go, I always give people the opportunity to say, hey, throw yourself into that problem and see what you can do with it, right? Good learning opportunity. You might not get it right. I've certainly I have lots of scars and lost a lot of hair in that process. But I would say for new folks that are stepping into there and future leaders is be willing to step in, not know everything. Obviously, validate with folks around you that could be sources of truth or wisdom. But sometimes just step out there and pick it up. A lot of times, like I said, people aren't willing to do the work. But the folks that make the move, right? And I think I always have, I guess, an admiration for that, and I would encourage that.
Yep. I love that. How do you think your team would describe you?
Oh, geez, they're on the call probably
I
here.
know. So
They're-
let's see if they start commenting. How do you think they would describe you as a person and as a leader?
oh, geez. Well, as a person, I think a friend, someone you can confide in at times, and just be, look for. We always have good conversations that are outside of work. It may be sports, music, find those common grounds. But I think people know I probably enjoy a conversation on American football a lot and those types of things. But that I would say there is just, Bob's got traits on music and football and things like that. From a leader perspective, open, collaborative. Sometimes I can get opinionated. I'll admit that, after you've done 30 years, you formulated some opinions, certainly. But I also welcome to say, challenge me or tell my team I got it wrong.
Yeah.
And call it out. And there, it's a safe space. It's a safe
Yep.
space. So I would hope that my team there, they can hit in the chat panel if I got it wrong.
They're
So
they're they're hitting it. I think they know the performance reviews are coming up, so you got some people who are really, backing you up here, and what you're saying. But you just said something really interesting to me, letting the team know when you got it wrong. Why is that so important?
Well, I think even Elizabeth, you said this yesterday, and it struck a chord. And I'm glad you mentioned it. And, we formulate our own bias. We have our own experiences and thoughts and how we solved it here. And I always have to remind myself, and it's still one of those things that I'm working on, is giving everyone an opportunity to chime in and say what they think. They may know the business imperative, and maybe it's my job to keep pushing that business imperative. But it's important that everyone comes at it with different viewpoints. They've solved it a different way, they've experienced it this way, or they've got context that I'm not privy to. And so that is the area where, and I think that invites collaboration, that builds trust. Those are those other things that we want to do. And eventually, really, I want to build long lasting relationships in life. Being in this business, being at the 20 plus years, you've come across a lot of people and you just, where you're successful is because you enjoy working with them.
Mhm.
And I want that to can be lasting. So that's the way I look at that.
I love that. Tell me a little bit about someone that you've worked with, and we'll pretend it's not here, who has been challenging. And how do you deal with someone who you have to work with, but who's a challenging personality for you? How do you gear up to do that and make that relationship successful?
Yes, well, certainly recognize it. Obviously, don't ignore it. I would say bring your best effort. Try to understand where they're coming from, what are their care abouts,
Mhm.
and then throw yourself out there. As I said, sometimes throw yourself out there and give it a shot. I had this is a long time ago, but I certainly remember a particular leader that was very disciplined, but also they had their own way of moving and operating. And I was a lot more casual, I would say. That's my flow. And I could recognize that wasn't necessarily something that they would I would say be accepting on and things of that sort. And so I made an effort to say, well, let's be a friend. Let's understand what motivates you, what you're doing, and invited them to, an evening event, right? And got to know them. So I threw myself out there, so to speak,
Yep.
and and then really got to know underneath a little bit better the layers. And then just keep that in mind. What are the care abouts that they're going to focus on?
Hmm.
And make sure you hit on those points first,
Yep.
as best as possible. And you're going to have that, but you don't understand their problem and their situation. It may be a personal thing. That's maybe where they've built up their character. And so just keep that in mind. We're all people here, and we all have to, the balance, private and business life. And I try to keep that in consideration. I would say my wife is really helpful in that area too.
Hmm.
She's
Hmm.
probably my best confidant in a lot of that.
So that's another question I had for you is who are your phone of friends, right? I mean, again, I'm dating myself for those of you who didn't watch Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, but who are your phone of friends? Who do you go to? Um, when you're coming up against something, you just said your wife, but do you have, or your council of elders or your board of directors, as others have said, who do you go to?
Yeah, there's certainly one leader that he's retired now, but an extraordinary leader that I work with, and but been in the business a long time, wrote several books, and it's that trust, and I can call him anytime, and he'll pick up the phone, and we'll have a chat, whatever it is. So I'll put the name aside because that's my special one,
Yeah,
but
no sharing.
no sharing, no sharing. But that one in particular, it's also this team here. My direct team. I think I did it last night. I probably called two of them, and I hate it sometimes, but I'm like, we're just gonna have a conversation, and it's 6:30 or 7:30 at night, and we're gonna have a quick chat, and I will, get their thoughts, get
Yeah,
their perspective, and it's just like having that friendly conversation and doing that. And
yeah,
then third, my wife has earned an honorary degree in contact center because she listens so well. She knows the acronyms incredibly well. She knows the strategy. She knows the talk. She knows the players, right? And I always tell her, I'm like, you could be an analyst at this point. But she's so awesome at just laying out, you know, how to orchestrate, how to move, how to think through it. And I guess the biggest thing is she's willing to listen
yeah.
late in the evening. With this happens a lot, especially now in Talkdesk. We got a lot going on. So we've had some great conversations till 2 or 3 in the morning.
That's amazing. Emma, are there questions in the chat? Because I will keep going, but I don't want to neglect folks on the call.
I haven't seen any come in yet, so keep on going and
All right.
I'll come back to them.
All right, because goodness knows, as you all know, I'll just keep going. So, how do you balance I mean, again, the old work-life balance that everybody talks about and nobody actually achieves because again, everybody, wants to do their best in both areas and probably, fails at both. How do you do it? How do you carve out the time, um, to step away? And because it's so important, as we know, to just step away, clear your head, find your space, do what you love. I mean, I think you are obviously very passionate about AI. So I think that, that obviously helps as well. But how do you find that time to just be like, I'm going to forget about everything except me and what?
This is funny, Elizabeth. When I was in college, I was a notorious, I would just late till last minute to, write the paper.
Yep.
Right. Something was due late at night, and and I would just constantly just defer things, defer things, defer things. And maybe that is just a scar tissue I've developed that I think a lot of times we stress about things, and then when you actually get to the work, it wasn't actually all that hard. And so those early days of learning that the scar tissue, but then saying, "Oh, I arrived and I did that and I executed that very well. I got comfortable with that." And so a lot of it I think is the stress, and so I don't stress. My balance is I haven't stressed in years, to be honest, and
It's amazing.
because maybe it's just because you have the business challenge, you see it forward, you got a deadline, and maybe you become numb to it a little bit. But I do love my weekends,
Yeah.
right? If I really try tone out. If I need to do something, I'll take care of it first thing Saturday morning. But I try to block it out on there. And I rarely work after 7 p.m. Now sometimes you need to do that.
Right.
But I try to. That's the family time that's there. And if I have something to do, then I just get up early in the morning and knock it out. Right. I love the peacefulness of 5 a.m. grabbing a coffee, no slacks, no, whatever. And you absolutely concentrate on it. And then plan those things. I want to go on a ski trip. We're doing that, right? Or we're going to take the family here. We're going to go do that and plan for that. So luckily, I also have a wife that controls the calendar extraordinarily well, and we've learned to work that way. But I literally pull out. Yes, I use the old calendar write down model too.
Me too.
Yep, especially for the personal life. And I usually go about every few weeks. I go write those things down, and I look at whether the personal zones I got to worry about. My son has a basketball game. My daughter has a mock trial event. I got kids in college and high school right now, and so just been more a good planner, right? And then you can set your agenda and then work around the schedules that you need. As long as you plan it out and see the line of sight there, then it becomes manageable.
Yeah. And what happens? Are you someone who can go with the flow? So again, at Talkdesk, the only thing that's constant is change, right? Which is part of what makes Talkdesk so fun, right? Or interesting. So are you someone who, if you get thrown off your schedule, you're gonna, you said you don't stress, but how do you handle that when something's coming in all of a sudden from left field?
Yeah, it's maybe it's like I said, used to dealing with urgency at the last minute and being comfortable with it and
Yeah.
surviving it. Yeah, I'm definitely a person that likes to go with the flow. I probably will state my opinion, of course, how it goes, but I'm very amiable to work through whatever well, I'll call it smoke and grayness that's right in front of us. I'm super comfortable with that. With contact center, I think I learned it a lot in contact center too. You would face a lot of customers where you're like, we've never done this before. We have no idea. Land on the ground and figure it out, read a book, right? And that became my mantra. So I had no fear doing that. And I guess I saw others that had the fear. And so I said, well, if I want to get ahead in this place, I'm going to step in. And when the fire's burning, I think Bill said it a lot too, but Bill Welsh said it a lot too. Where there's fire and smoke, instead of running away, I'm going right at it and saying, what do I need to do? Grab the hose, grab a ladder.
Yep.
Willing to do that. And what's interesting, you learn something, usually, hopefully you solve the problem, of course. But just maybe genuinely interested as well.
I love that. And I think that is something also that is pretty indicative of a talk desker, is that just right. We are people as a group that run towards the fire a lot. And we do it together, and we do it, as you said, because we've got this great group of people around us. It also makes it a lot easier to run towards that fire because you are never by yourself running towards that fire.
Yeah, exactly. It's needed, right?
Yep.
We understand in this business. I call contact center when something goes wrong. It's like the check engine light in your car.
Yes.
Something under the hood
Yes.
didn't go well, and maybe we need to go look at it, investigate it, and before I send it to the shop, I'm curious myself to what possibly could it be. And I like to treat that with our customers, get on a call, understand the situation, get clarity on that, understand what potentially could have occurred, and then go from there. And I think customers appreciate that. They want to know that you're there, you're worried, you're concerned about their well-being as a business, but also their people, and they've got problems. And so I think they appreciate when you show up and say, hey, I'm thinking about you, I'm worried about you. What can we do to make it better for you? We might not have all the answers day one, but maybe we can set forth a plan.
Yep. All right. I've got two more questions that I always that I end with.
Yeah.
But one is it's your 80th birthday. And
Right.
people are giving toasts. I'm sure you've heard this been asked. People are giving toasts. What do you want them to say about you?
Wow. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Geez. That's a tough one. Um,
Hope, not what, maybe not want. What do you hope they
well,
say
yeah, of
about you? How
course.
about that?
Of course. Just being, I think I look back at I think about my dad. My dad was obviously a big influence on my life. And we had good memories. You had great stories, and they would just start telling certain stories of a moment, and we had fun. And so I think I look at that one to toast as saying, thank you for making my life with you more enjoyable or fun or tolerable. That I think that's the main one. And
Yeah.
that includes laughing, having those bad moments, but having good moments, or what was the result of that? Probably a toast of that to say thank you for the great memories collectively. It made my life better, and I had fun along the way. If we're not laughing during some of these days, what's the point?
That's right.
What's the point?
I could not agree more. And I think people who know me would say the same thing. I think you and I have that same mindset. All right. The very serious question, and I actually have one more after this, which is
Oh
actually
no.
Your prison meal. It's your last night on earth. Your last night on earth. What are you eating?
Wow. Yeah, man. And I'm going to prison. Well, that's
Well,
fantastic.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah.
So,
It starts with a fantastic Greek salad,
okay.
right?
I'm following you. Yep.
Oh yeah. Starts with that. The fresh Greek salad, super important. A nice glass of Cabernet to go along with that. And then I'll dig right into a nice, good Italian meal, which would usually be, what would I have? Sausage and pepper Parmigiano, which is one of my favorite dishes. It's totally unhealthy. It's so fulfilling and so good.
Doesn't
And
matter. It's your last night on earth. Who cares? You're not,
yep,
who's counting
yep, yep.
calories?
And then wrap it up with a nice solid piece of New York cheesecake.
Nice. Nice. Okay, my last question is, are you watching on Apple TV the Dynasty documentary about the Patriots?
Oh, so
Because, by the way, I live in Boston.
so Elizabeth, the answer is no, and I'll tell you why.
Your only acceptable answer is I don't have Apple TV.
Yeah, exactly. In that, I am a diehard Pittsburgh Steeler fan and grew up in Pittsburgh.
Okay, I can't even with you. Okay, fine.
So there is I used to hate the Dallas Cowboys. That was even worse.
Good point.
And then the Patriots became my new enemy. And so I'm always enjoying that now the Patriots are irrelevant at the moment. So so no. But you'll find me always watching, reliving those 1970s moments of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So
The Terry Bradshaw moments.
that is definitely my
I can talk football. We won't bore people with this, but I can talk football with you.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, this was great. This made my week. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Go Pats. This was great. I learned a lot. I hope others did as well. Again, I've had the luck to talk a lot with you, or a little bit with you about what you do, but this was really fun. And we all know yep, the bus. Here they all come, right? It was the football talk that got everybody to start making the comments. So thank you so much. I know how busy you are, and but we know who our AI expert is, folks, and you heard him about all about the learning that he does and the passion that you have. So just really thank you for just being you, first of all, and your vulnerability and your transparency on this call. But this was really fun.
I agree. Let's do it again. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time, and to all the talk deskers out there, thanks for listening.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Take care.